Hello, my friends. Jacob is here. Or maybe I'm not really here. Maybe I'm just a hologram, an illusion. Maybe I'm not real at all. So says Stephen Hawking's latest work, Postmortem, one of the greatest minds in physics. We know he passed away in March, I think it was March 14th. And in April, his work and the work of Professor Hertog. It is really, it's finally molded together two trains of thought, two schools of thought that are both true, that being quantum mechanics and that being general relativity. And it has put together these two, which seem to be opposing views, into this one beautiful mathematical equation that I just don't understand. But what it basically amounts to is that everything that you see right here, everything that you experience, is kind of like a 3D hologram, kind of something that you would see on the back of a card, when you're looking at it. "2D information, a line of like computer code or film, if you will." They use the word film as a great way, projected into what we consider to be reality. And what does that mean? Well, it actually has some interesting ties to ancient wisdom, believe it or not. That's right, it's even in the scriptures. It ties together this idea that we are seated in heavenly places, that we can be in the world and not of the world at the exact same time. So the question then becomes, is all this madness about Yanny or Yali and Laurel that's going on right now and has taken the internet by storm, which I thought was going to be like some kind of crazy psyop. And you know what it is. You've heard it by now. People are listening to one thing and they hear it one way and then half of them hear it another way, right? Who's to say that some crazy AI isn't just messing with us every time it's played, just changes it a little bit? I'm not saying that's happening, of course, because they have some kind of kooky explanation. But, I was thinking when I heard about this, I go, this would be a great psyop, or this would be a great Mandela effect. But really, after I brought it home and I tried it out on my family, and half of them heard it as Laurel and half of them heard it as Yali, I thought to myself, my goodness, maybe this is a simulation. Maybe this is a little bit of a hologram. And in the grand scheme of things, this is actually really cool, people. Because I've always said that this is like your movie. That this is the adventure that we've all been given. The journey, the hero's journey. And perhaps it's being projected into this 3D reality from a place beyond. We're going to get into that today. So I hope that you're buckled up and I hope that you checked all your nonsense at the door because we're talking kooky crazy stuff today. Okay, so this is the part of the episode where I try to appear very smart and I share very deep philosophical and insights into physics and relativity. I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I did the research. So I'm going to share some of that with you. Okay, so there are these two prevailing theories, okay? We have to understand this first to understand how important this understanding that Hawking and Hertog came to in the end, which, by the way, was published. Take a look at that. And what this does is it answers a paradox that Stephen Hawking had brought about. He had said that matter, when it's sucked into a black hole, it just ceases to exist. So that just basically flies in the face. It's a paradox of general relativity and internal inflation. The idea that we just came into be like a big bang, which, by the way, there's more evidence that it's more like a big bounce. I have a video on that. I'll try to link it at the end. In any event, okay, so let's I'm going to try to, let me express this in layman's terms. Hopefully I can express this a good way. Okay, so there are two prevailing theories in physics, okay? The first one is general relativity, which we get from Albert Einstein. You know, it's the whole everything is connected, and it really kind of deals with heavy objects like planets, and that their maths then, because everything is, there's a space-time, like kind of a web that everything's connected to, or a net. Picture a trampoline, and you put a big heavy ball in the center, and then you roll another ball around, and basically, so as we're moving, I don't know what I'm talking about, but if you want, you can figure it out by going to any kind of site that deals with relativity. So Einstein's theory, and it was 1915, it explained gravity and space-time in the way that we understand it. Now, see, a couple of years later, like 1927, then quantum mechanics comes out. These guys. Now, this deals with the smaller things. This deals with the atoms and the electrons and the protons and the photons and the this-dons and the that-dons, all the little stuff. But quantum mechanics seems to fly in the face of general relativity because if you know anything about it, you know, objects can appear in two different places and they can act in different ways, and it just doesn't make any sense. It's like magic. Physicists have been searching for the one theory that solves everything. They've been doing this for a long time, and some of the ways they handled this was coming up with like a multiverse theory that like in every single instant there's an infinite amount of possibilities for this instant. As I'm talking to you, I have a choice, and it branches off in each moment in an infinite amount of ways. That's one way that would explain the mathematics, but that kind of seems a little bit kooky, and nobody was really buying it too much. And that's now, this basically gets rid of the multiverse theory, which is this is kind of revolutionary, okay? And now these are all theories, right? We could all be wrong. You know, the way I look at it, if you look at space and you look at how it's expanding, because that's what it means by inflation. There was the Big Bang, and it's just kind of, you know, expanding internally. I look at it kind of like if there was a Big Bang, well, you think about like turning on a computer and there's the landscape, right? But it was already created ahead of time. That would be like a simulation. That could also be like a hologram, which is what Stephen Hawking's new findings prove. That this really, what we consider to be our objective reality is really just a projected hologram of something else. And we're actually, as we're experiencing this here, we're actually somewhere else. What I like to call the heavenly realm, seated in heavenly places. After Hawking's death, and this being published right now is so incredibly important and interesting, because this has a lot to do with everything that I talk to all of you about on a regular basis. How I say that we're more than we know, and that, you know, this is not all there is, and that we're connected to one, and everyone is connected to everyone, and that whatever, there's a great scripture, whatever you bind in heaven is bound in earth, whatever you loose in heaven is loosed in earth. It all basically balances now, this holographic universe idea. This idea that the black hole is basically, imagine it like it's like a film, okay? And behind that film is maybe there's like a, I don't know, like imagine how you have this film and you have a projector behind it, and it's projecting that 3D image onto the screen. And so imagine we're projected into this reality and we're experiencing it much like some kind of crazy simulation, which is why, you know, Elon Musk and a lot of those other people say that we're already in one to begin with. See, fundamental physics is basically, you can't, if you're here, you're here, and that's it. You can't be somewhere else, right? But then when you start to understand how photons behave, and how particles can be in one place and another place. I mean, this is basically when you understand that there's more than just 3 dimensions, that there are like 11 dimensions, time being the 4th dimension, it doesn't make a lot of sense. what they're doing at CERN and at Brookhaven and a lot of the Fermi labs is, they're trying to, I don't know what, find a way out. They're creating these black holes. Now, this is an interesting thing because they're creating these mini black holes. And now we've measured gravitational waves, and I know a lot of this makes absolutely no sense to you, okay? It was kind of hard for me to understand, but basically, imagine that now there's proof that this stuff exists, okay? That there are other dimensions, and it's possible to get into them, which, as I've been saying for years, is probably why we see changes, like with this Mandela effect. I'm not saying that's what it is, but what I'm saying is it's possible. Anything's possible. And if this is some kind of simulation, then who's to say that the code can't be changed, right? I'm not saying it is. Hawking's and a lot of the greatest minds in physics are saying without a shadow of a doubt that the universe is a hologram. A hologram, a projected reality, like film. Now, what's interesting is that there are a lot of scriptures that touch on this, believe it or not. In Isaiah, all the host of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll. You could call a film roll a scroll, because that's basically what it is. Revelation 6:14, that the heavens departed as a scroll. When it was rolled together, which would be the inflation and the expansion and this little big bounce thing. Matthew 16 is the part that I think is just so fantastic, because if we're truly seated in heavenly places, right? If, like as Jesus said, that I'm in the world but not of the world. If Jesus was explaining that I'm here but I'm also there, and he's saying that you're here but you're also there. In other words, you're already in another environment completely. One would say, the best way of understanding this is if you're going to play a VR game, like these movies that are out, right? The ones that we just, Ready Player One. You put this on and you enter a new world. And you exist in that world. And if you forget that you're actually just playing that game, you may be stuck there until you wake up to realize that you're more than the player. Now, I'm not saying that's what's happening here, but spiritually speaking, it sort of is. See, the scriptures say that God is the beginning and the end. So it's all done. Everything's finished. He said that it's finished. Okay, that's why we're supposed to rest too. It's over with. That's why everything that has been will always be, and everything that is now has already been. That's written in scripture as well, which would make sense if it was like a long film being projected out here and expanding as we go about our story. In Isaiah 46, declaring the end from the beginning, the great architect, the author and finisher, it's finished. This is why this is the good news, because you can't fail. And you just have to understand that you are more than you know. You're seated in heavenly places. I mean, really, people. Now, could this be another, like a lot of people say, oh, don't listen to that, Jacob. It's another psyop. Well, who knows, right? Because look at how quickly this Laurel and Yanny thing spread. I mean, it's amazing. We are told what to think. We're told what to focus on. Like all these shining objects are here. But what if we can create as well? What if we're co-creating with the Father, if you will, as the scriptures say? And now as this holographic principle dictates, that whatever's bound in heaven is bound on earth, whatever's loose in heaven is loose in earth. And see now, and we can be in heavenly places. And how do you get there? It's very simple. Just close your eyes. If you just close your eyes for a second and you realize you are in yourself, and you are the center of everything in this realm. But what if you can, by closing your eyes, not just see the end from the beginning and begin to picture your life better and to begin to understand that your life is what you imagine it to be? This is our movie, after all. The holographic principle now backs that up. It's some kind of a movie, right? I am that I am means, that's God's name. I will be whatever I will be. And all there is, now I've been talking about this over the last couple of weeks. My last show, I really hit on this. So if you haven't seen the show about the principalities and powers and rulers of dark places and spiritual wickedness, check it out, because it has a lot to do with the idea that everything is God and God is everything, that we are all in we're in this and it is in us. As Jesus said, I'm in the Father is in me, and we're in you, which would also be another word for hologram. We're all connected. We're all together, the spiritual and the natural. It's almost like the stars fell and descended, right? And there's a scripture, and we are the stars that fell into matter, into this hologram, if it is a hologram. And I'm not saying that it is, but to have these two principles, which we know are true, quantum mechanics and general relativity and eternal inflation, to have them be balanced by the math, which we know that math is true, right? That bodes well for every one of you, because it does mean that you are in heaven as well as in earth. So it's about time to get linked up. It's about time to get the spiritual, the truth, and seek it. Know that you are in God and God is in you, and that this is your movie. So be the star. In any event, I thought it was cool and I wanted to share it with you, and I hope that you share it with others. I love each and every one of you, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
I don't have that father figure like that. And you just made me feel like you just put some life into me today, man.
Oh, I appreciate that.